Deep within the heart of Africa, a paradox exists. A vast inland sea, yet one that seems to defy the very concept of permanence. Lake Chad. For centuries, its name has conjured images of an immense, shimmering expanse, a vital lifeline in the Sahel. But this is no ordinary lake. It is a chameleon, a liquid phantom, its boundaries elusive, its very existence a question mark etched onto the continent. What does it mean to map a body of water that breathes, expands, and contracts with the seasons, sometimes almost vanishing entirely? Imagine the awe, the bewilderment, of early explorers stumbling upon this phenomenon. European cartographers, accustomed to fixed shorelines, grappled with its immensity and instability. Their first attempts to chart Lake Chad were tentative, filled with approximations, rumors, and the sheer challenge of scale. It was a frontier, not just geographically, but conceptually. How do you draw a definitive line around something that refuses to be defined? These early maps, now brittle with age, whisper of a grand struggle. Lake Chad has always been a place of change, not just in recent decades, but throughout millennia. Its existence is tied to climatic cycles, an ancient rhythm of wet and dry periods. It has expanded to the size of Ireland, then retreated to a fraction of that. This natural variability, a deep breath and a slow exhale, shaped the ecosystems and human societies around it. But how do you capture such a dynamic entity on a static piece of paper? The lake, in its very nature, resisted the cartographers' straight lines. The challenge for those first cartographers was immense. Without modern tools, navigating its vast, shallow expanse was perilous. Imagine charting a shore that might be miles inland one year, and then submerged the next. How do you anchor your measurements when the very ground beneath you is uncertain? They relied on arduous treks, celestial navigation, and the invaluable, though often localized, knowledge of indigenous peoples. Each line drawn on their parchment was a testament to perseverance, a bold claim against the lake's inherent ambiguity. Long before European paper maps, the communities surrounding Lake Chad possessed their own cartographies. Not etched in ink, but in memory, in stories, in seasonal migrations. Elders held mental maps of fishing grounds, safe passages, and fertile lands, passed down through generations. This indigenous knowledge, deeply attuned to the lake's moods, offered a fluidity that Western cartography struggled to embrace. It was a living map, responding to the lake's breath, anticipating its shifts. A stark contrast to the rigid lines that would soon be imposed. Then came the scramble for Africa. European powers, carving up the continent, found Lake Chad a particularly thorny challenge. How do you draw a border through an ever-changing body of water? Their attempts were political acts, lines of control imposed on an uncontrollable landscape. These artificial divisions, often ignoring ecological realities and indigenous territories, set the stage for future conflicts. The lake became not just a geographical puzzle, but a geopolitical one, its shifting shores now defining international boundaries that refused to stay put. The story of Lake Chad took a dramatic turn in the late 20th century. What had been natural fluctuation began to accelerate, driven by both climate change and unsustainable human activity. From the 1960s, satellite images began to tell a stark, undeniable story: the lake was shrinking at an alarming rate. A vast, shimmering inland sea, once a source of life and mystery, was becoming a ghost of its former self. How could something so immense simply disappear? The implications for cartographers, and for humanity, were profound. As the water receded, new land emerged from the depths. Ghost islands, then entire plains, became visible where fish once swam. This wasn't merely a change, it was a transformation of the very fabric of existence for millions. Former lakebed became farmland, then contested territory. New settlements sprang up, only for the lake to sometimes reclaim them in a brief resurgence. The maps became obsolete almost before the ink was dry. How do you define a coastline when the water itself plays such a cruel game of hide and seek? For modern cartographers, the shrinking of Lake Chad presents a unique quandary. How do you accurately represent a boundary that is constantly in flux? traditional survey methods become irrelevant. The lines drawn on maps, once symbols of permanence, are now merely snapshots in time. This requires a new philosophy of mapping, one that embraces dynamism, uncertainty, and the very concept of impermanence. The cartographers aren't just drawing lines, they're documenting a vanishing act, a silent tragedy unfolding on a grand scale. The advent of satellite imagery revolutionized our understanding of Lake Chad, offering a god's eye view of its dramatic transformation. From orbit, the stark reality became undeniable. But even these digital eyes in the sky don't simplify the cartographer's task. They reveal intricate patterns of water movement, vegetation changes, and human impact. They provide data, vast amounts of it, but the interpretation, the drawing of meaning from these pixels, remains a profound human challenge. What stories do these images tell? Beyond the lines on a map, the shrinking of Lake Chad has a devastating human toll. Millions depend on its waters for survival. As the lake recedes, livelihoods vanish. Fishermen become farmers on parched earth. Pastoralists lose grazing land. This scarcity fuels competition, migration, and conflict. The humanitarian crisis is profound, yet often overlooked. What does it mean for a community when the very foundation of their existence simply dries up? The cartographer's lines now trace pathways of displacement and despair. Recognizing the transnational nature of the crisis, the Lake Chad Basin Commission, or LCBC, was established. Comprising the countries bordering the lake, it represents a crucial, if challenging, attempt at collaborative management. But how do sovereign nations agree on the use of a resource that is constantly in flux and shrinking? The political boundaries drawn generations ago now clash with the ecological realities of a shared, vanishing ecosystem. The cartographers for the LCBC face a unique diplomatic challenge: to map not just water, but shared responsibility. In the face of such profound loss, radical solutions emerge. One of the most ambitious and controversial is the Transaqua project, a proposal to divert water from the Congo River basin, thousands of kilometers south, to replenish Lake Chad. A monumental feat of engineering, it promises salvation, but at what cost? Environmentalists warn of ecological disaster in the Congo, while proponents argue it's the only way to save the Sahel. Can humanity truly engineer its way out of such a deep-seated problem, or are we merely shifting the burden? The ecological collapse is devastating. Lake Chad, once teeming with life, a haven for migratory birds and unique aquatic species, sees its biodiversity unravel. Fish species, critical for local diets, disappear. The fragile wetland ecosystem, a vital buffer against desertification, deteriorates. Each line that recedes on the map represents not just a loss of water, but a loss of interconnected life. The cartographers are not just charting water bodies, they are inadvertently documenting a mass extinction, a silent disappearance of entire ecosystems. Today, cartographers employ advanced climate models and predictive analytics. They forecast the lake's future, mapping potential drought scenarios and anticipating the next shifts. This isn't just about drawing what exists, but about predicting what might be. It's a race against time, an attempt to stay one step ahead of the lake's relentless changes. Can these digital prophecies avert catastrophe? Or will the lake, in its ancient wisdom, continue to defy our most sophisticated predictions? The future of millions hinges on these projections. For those who dedicate their lives to charting Lake Chad, the work is more than just scientific, it's deeply personal. They bear witness to a profound loss, tracing its decline, line by painstaking line. The maps they create tell a story of environmental grief, a tangible record of what once was, and what might be lost forever. Their work is a quiet elegy, a testament to a changing world. What does it feel like to map something that is steadily disappearing, knowing each new iteration documents further loss? Yet, amidst the challenges, there is resilience. The people of Lake Chad are adapting, innovating, finding new ways to survive in a landscape defined by uncertainty. They develop drought-resistant crops, seek alternative livelihoods, and adjust their ancient migration patterns. These human stories of ingenuity and perseverance are as much a part of the lake's cartography as its receding shores. They remind us that even as the physical landscape changes, the human spirit finds ways to persist, to redraw its own internal maps of survival. And sometimes, the lake surprises us. Brief periods of heavier rainfall bring a temporary resurgence. The waters creep back, reclaiming lost territories, breathing a fragile breath of life into parched lands. These moments offer a glimmer of hope, a reminder that the lake, though threatened, is not entirely gone. It still possesses an ancient power to renew, to confound expectations. But are these resurgences true recovery, or merely fleeting moments in a longer, inexorable decline? The question hangs heavy in the Sahelian air. The story of Lake Chad forces a re-evaluation of cartography itself. It's no longer just about drawing borders, but about mapping interdependencies, vulnerabilities, and shared solutions. It demands a collaborative, international effort, transcending the colonial lines imposed centuries ago. The new cartographies of Lake Chad are global maps, integrating ecological data with human stories, climate science with indigenous wisdom. They seek to understand the entire basin as a single, living entity, whose fate is inextricably linked to the actions of humanity. Lake Chad remains a perpetual mystery, a powerful symbol of our planet's fragility and the complex interplay between nature and humanity. Its story is far from over. The cartographers, both ancient and modern, continue their quest to understand and define it. Their maps, whether etched in memory or rendered by satellites, are more than just geographical representations, they are chronicles of loss, resilience, and an enduring hope. The whispers beneath this inland sea echo a profound truth: the map, like life itself, is never truly finished.